He wanted to humiliate his ex at his wedding, but she arrived with a new husband and triplets in a Rolls-Royce. Marcus Thompson thought his wedding day would be the perfect stage to humiliate his ex-wife, Jasmine. After their bitter divorce 3 years ago, he invited her to his lavish Atlanta wedding with one cruel intention: to parade his success and mock her in front of everyone who mattered. He planned to introduce her as the one who never made it, and show the world how much better off he was without her. But as he prepared his cruel speech, the sound of a luxury car engine stopped everything. A pristine Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up to the venue, and out stepped Jasmine, radiant, confident, accompanied by a handsome man and 3 beautiful children. In that moment, Marcus's carefully orchestrated humiliation backfired spectacularly. What he meant as her lowest point became his own, and the entire wedding became a witness to karma's perfect timing. For YouTube description, Marcus invited his ex-wife to his wedding for one reason: to humiliate her publicly. But when she arrived in a Rolls-Royce with a new husband and triplets, his cruel plan exploded in his face. This powerful story set in Atlanta shows what happens when you underestimate someone you once threw away. A tale of resilience, dignity, and the sweet satisfaction of living well. Karma story, wedding, revenge, Atlanta story, justice served, empowerment. He wanted to humiliate his ex at his wedding, but she arrived with a new husband and triplets in a Rolls-Royce. Jasmine Williams stared at the cream-colored envelope in her mailbox, her name written in elaborate calligraphy. The return address made her stomach drop. Marcus Thompson, her ex-husband. It was a Saturday morning in Atlanta, the late spring air already thick with Georgia humidity. Jasmine had just returned from her morning run through Piedmont Park, her 3-year-old triplets, Zara, Noah, and Elijah, still asleep upstairs in their Buckhead townhouse. She opened the envelope with trembling hands. "You are cordially invited to celebrate the marriage of Marcus Jeremiah Thompson and Brittany Nicole Hayes." The wedding was at the St. Regis Atlanta, one of the city's most exclusive venues. Black tie, no expense spared. Very Marcus. Always needing to prove he was the most successful person in any room. But why invite her? Their divorce 3 years ago had been brutal. Marcus, a corporate attorney at one of Atlanta's top firms, had blamed Jasmine for holding him back. He'd said her career as an elementary school teacher was embarrassing compared to his corporate success. He'd called her unambitious and basic. When she'd discovered his affair with Brittany, a paralegal at his firm, he'd actually justified it by saying Brittany understood his drive. The divorce settlement had been meager. Marcus's expensive lawyers had made sure of that. Jasmine had walked away with almost nothing, just her dignity and her teaching salary. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Jasmine discovered she was pregnant. The timeline meant the babies were Marcus's, conceived right before their separation. When she'd told him, he'd said coldly, "That's your problem, not mine. I have a new life now." He'd signed away his parental rights without hesitation, paid the minimum child support Georgia law required, and never once asked about the children. When Jasmine gave birth to triplets, a shock to everyone, including her, Marcus hadn't even sent a card. Now, 3 years later, he was inviting her to his wedding. Jasmine's phone rang. Her best friend Keisha's name flashed on the screen. "Girl, did you get it?" Keisha asked immediately. "You got one too?" Marcus sent invitations to everyone. All your old friends, people from the neighborhood, folks he knew you'd be connected to. He's making sure you know about this wedding. Keisha's voice was tight with anger. "Jazz, this is a setup. He's trying to humiliate you." Jasmine's jaw clenched. "What do you mean?" "I ran into his cousin DeAndre at the grocery store. He was drunk and running his mouth. Said Marcus has been telling people he invited you specifically so everyone can see how far he's come and how far you've fallen. He's planning some kind of speech during the reception about lessons learned from past mistakes. You're the past mistake, Jazz." Rage flooded through Jasmine, hot and sharp. For 3 years, she'd held her head high. She'd raised her triplets alone while teaching full-time. She'd struggled, yes. Childcare for triplets wasn't cheap, but she'd managed. She'd built a life that was humble but full of love. And now Marcus wanted to drag her in front of everyone to mock her? Don't go, Keisha said firmly. He doesn't deserve the satisfaction. But Jasmine was quiet, thinking. An idea was forming. Risky, bold, but potentially perfect. Actually, Jasmine said slowly, I think I will go. What? Girl, are you crazy? Trust me, Jasmine said. I have a plan. That evening, after putting the triplets to bed, Jasmine sat at her laptop and opened her email. She scrolled to a message she'd received 2 weeks ago, one she'd been too scared to respond to. The email was from Dr. Emmanuel Okonkwo, a renowned pediatric surgeon who'd recently moved to Atlanta to head the Children's Hospital's new cardiac unit. They'd met 6 months ago at a parent-teacher conference. His nephew was in Jasmine's class. Emmanuel had asked Jasmine to dinner 3 times. Each time, she'd politely declined. She liked him. He was handsome, successful, kind, and wonderful with her children. But she'd been hurt so badly by Marcus that the idea of dating terrified her. But now, staring at Marcus's wedding invitation, Jasmine made a decision. She typed, Dr. Okonkwo, if your dinner invitation is still open, I'd love to accept. And I have a favor to ask. 2 weeks before Marcus's wedding, Jasmine sat across from Emmanuel at a cozy Ethiopian restaurant in Little 5 Points. The triplets were with Keisha for the evening, a rare night out for Jasmine. Emmanuel listened intently as Jasmine explained everything. The divorce, Marcus's cruelty, the invitation that was clearly meant to humiliate her. So, let me understand, Emmanuel said, his deep voice calm and measured. He invited you to his wedding specifically to mock you in front of everyone you know? That's exactly what he's doing. Emmanuel's expression darkened. That's not just cruel, that's pathological. I know, and I've thought about just ignoring it, but Jasmine paused. For 3 years I've been invisible to him. He acts like our children don't exist. He tells people I was some kind of failure who held him back. Meanwhile, I've been raising 3 kids alone on a teacher's salary, doing the best I can. I just want— You want him to see you? Emmanuel finished. Really see you. See what he threw away. Yes. Jasmine felt vulnerable admitting it. Is that petty? It's human. Emmanuel reached across the table and took her hand. Jasmine, I've been trying to court you properly for 6 months. You keep saying you're not ready, and I've respected that, but the truth is I'm falling for you. You're brilliant with children. You're resilient. You're beautiful inside and out. So here's what I propose. Let me take you to this wedding. Not as a favor, but as your— what would you like to call it? Jasmine's heart raced. Are you asking me to be your girlfriend? I'm asking you to let me show you, and everyone at that wedding, that you're valued, that you're cherished, that Marcus Thompson is a fool who let go of something precious. Jasmine felt tears prick her eyes. Emmanuel, I come with 3 children. I'm a package deal. I know. I've met your children, remember? Zara asked me about hearts because I'm a heart surgeon. Noah wants to know if I can teach him soccer. Elijah just wants me to read him stories. They're wonderful, Jasmine. They're part of what makes you extraordinary. This is moving fast, Jasmine said, but she was smiling. Then let's start slow after the wedding. But for one night, let me stand beside you. Let me show that man what he lost. Jasmine squeezed his hand. Okay, but I have to warn you. I was planning to arrive in an Uber. Emmanuel grinned. Oh no, if we're doing this, we're doing it right. Leave the transportation to me. The week before the wedding, Keisha took Jasmine shopping. If you're going to make an entrance, you need to look absolutely stunning, Keisha declared, pulling Jasmine into a boutique in Lenox Square. They found it. A floor-length emerald green gown that hugged Jasmine's curves perfectly and made her dark skin glow. The back was open, the neckline elegant. It was sophisticated, expensive-looking, and utterly gorgeous. Marcus is going to choke on his champagne, Keisha said with satisfaction. Jasmine also bought new shoes, had her locks styled into an elegant updo, and splurged on a manicure. For the first time in 3 years, she felt beautiful. Not just functional, not just mom, but genuinely beautiful. The night before the wedding, Emmanuel came over after the triplets were asleep. They sat on Jasmine's couch and he showed her a photo on his phone, a pristine white Rolls-Royce Phantom. My cousin owns a luxury car service, Emmanuel explained. This beauty is available tomorrow. I've also arranged for my sister to bring her twins. They're the same age as your triplets. The 6 of them together will be adorable. Emmanuel, this is too much. It's not enough, he interrupted gently. Jasmine, you've been raising 3 children alone while working full-time. You've been struggling while your ex-husband lives in luxury and acts like you don't exist. You deserve one night where you walk into a room and everyone sees your worth. Let me give you that. Jasmine kissed him then, soft and grateful and full of feelings she'd been afraid to acknowledge. Thank you, she whispered. The St. Regis Atlanta ballroom was spectacular. Crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere, a string quartet playing Vivaldi. Marcus had spared no expense. Guests in designer gowns and tuxedos mingled with champagne glasses, the Atlanta elite celebrating one of their own. Jasmine and Emmanuel arrived fashionably late, exactly as planned. The Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up to the venue entrance just as the ceremony was ending, and guests were moving to the reception. The valet's eyes widened at the luxury vehicle. Emmanuel stepped out first, impeccable in a custom navy tuxedo. Then he extended his hand, and Jasmine emerged, radiant in her emerald gown, her locks styled elegantly, her skin glowing. But the real showstoppers were the children. Emmanuel's sister had dressed all 6 children, Jasmine's triplets and her own twins, in coordinated formal wear. The 3 boys wore tiny tuxedos. The 3 girls wore white dresses with emerald sashes. They looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. The valet actually stopped directing traffic to stare. As Jasmine and her group walked toward the ballroom entrance, heads began to turn. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Is that Jasmine Williams? Oh my God, she looks incredible. Are those her kids? She has triplets? Who's the man? Is that Dr. Okonkwo from Children's Healthcare? Inside the ballroom, Marcus was holding court at the head table, Brittany beside him in her elaborate wedding gown. He was in the middle of an anecdote, making his groomsmen laugh, when someone touched his arm. Mark, your ex-wife just arrived. Marcus's smile faltered. What? She's here. And dude, she's not alone. Marcus stood, craning his neck to see the entrance. His face went pale. Jasmine stood in the ballroom doorway like a vision. Emmanuel's hand rested gently on the small of her back, and the 6 children clustered around them, well-behaved and adorable. The entire room seemed to pause. The string quartet continued playing, but conversations died. Everyone was staring. Marcus felt something twist in his chest. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. Jasmine was supposed to arrive alone, clearly struggling, giving him the perfect opportunity to make his planned speech about outgrowing people who don't match your ambition. But the woman standing there didn't look like someone who'd been outgrown. She looked like someone who'd blossomed. Who's the guy? Brittany hissed beside him. I don't know, Marcus lied. He knew exactly who Emmanuel Okonkwo was. The pediatric surgeon had been featured in Atlanta magazine last month as one of the city's most eligible bachelors, before the article was updated to note he was off the market. Jasmine's eyes found Marcus across the room. She smiled, not triumphantly, just calmly, and gave a small nod of acknowledgement. Then she turned her attention to greeting old friends who were already swarming to welcome her. Jazz, oh my God, you look amazing. These are your babies? They're beautiful. Dr. Okonkwo, we're so honored you're here. Marcus watched as Jasmine moved through the crowd with natural grace. People were drawn to her, not because she was showing off, but because she radiated genuine warmth and confidence. One of the triplets, little Noah, tugged on Emmanuel's jacket. Emmanuel bent down, listening seriously to whatever the toddler was saying, then lifted him up so he could see better. The gesture was so natural, so tender, that several women in the crowd literally sighed. Marcus! His mother appeared at his elbow, her voice sharp. You told me Jasmine was struggling. You said she was barely making ends meet. You said... She was, Marcus insisted. 3 years ago she was. Well, she's not anymore, his mother said coldly. And you invited her here to humiliate her? What were you thinking? Before Marcus could answer, the wedding coordinator approached. Mr. Thompson, it's time for your speech. Marcus had spent weeks crafting this speech. It was supposed to be about lessons learned and growing beyond your past and finding someone who matches your ambition. Everyone who'd received an invitation, especially Jasmine, would understand exactly who he was talking about. But now, as he took the microphone and looked out at the assembled guests, he saw Jasmine sitting at a table near the back. Emmanuel sat beside her, one arm draped casually over the back of her chair. The triplets were being entertained by Emmanuel's sister, but they kept looking at their mother with obvious adoration. Jasmine wasn't watching Marcus. She was laughing at something Emmanuel whispered in her ear. Her whole face lit up with joy. Marcus's prepared speech died in his throat. He couldn't do it. Because standing there, looking at his ex-wife glowing with happiness, surrounded by children who were his, but looked at another man as their father figure, Marcus finally understood what he'd thrown away. Jasmine hadn't been unambitious. She'd been building a family while he'd been building a career. She hadn't been holding him back. She'd been his partner, his support system, his home. And he'd traded her for what? A younger woman who looked good on his arm? A bigger paycheck? The approval of people who didn't actually matter? Marcus started, his voice shaky. I want to thank everyone for coming today. He abandoned his prepared speech entirely, mumbling through generic thanks and toasts. The crowd applauded politely, but confused glances were exchanged. This wasn't the confident Marcus they knew. As dinner was served, Marcus couldn't stop watching Jasmine's table. Emmanuel was attentive without being overbearing, making sure Jasmine had everything she needed. When one of the triplets started to fuss, both adults worked together seamlessly to calm the child. They looked like a family, natural, comfortable, real. Brittany noticed her new husband's distraction. Marcus, stop staring at her. I'm not. You've been staring for 20 minutes. Brittany's voice was ice. This is our wedding day. I know. I'm sorry. But he wasn't sorry. He was devastated. Because for the first time since their divorce, Marcus realized he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. Later in the evening, as guests mingled and danced, Marcus found himself alone on the venue's terrace. He needed air, needed to escape the suffocating reality of his own wedding. Beautiful night. Marcus turned to find Emmanuel standing a few feet away, also escaping the crowd for a moment. Yeah, Marcus said stiffly. They stood in awkward silence. Finally, Emmanuel spoke. I know who you are. Jasmine told me everything. Marcus's defenses rose. Look, whatever she said you were once the man she loved most in the world. She said your divorce broke her heart. She said you signed away your rights to 3 beautiful children without a second thought. Emmanuel's voice was calm but firm. She also said she's forgiven you, that she doesn't carry anger anymore, that she hopes you're happy. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. Are you with her? Really with her? I'm trying to be. She's been hurt, so she's cautious. But yes, I care about her deeply. And those children? They're incredible, smart, funny, kind. Just like their mother. They're mine, Marcus said, the words bitter. Biologically, yes, but you chose not to be their father. That was your decision. Emmanuel turned to face Marcus directly. I'm not trying to replace you. I'm simply trying to be present in their lives in a way you chose not to be. If that bothers you, that's something you'll need to examine within yourself. With that, Emmanuel walked back inside, leaving Marcus alone on the terrace. Inside the ballroom, the evening was winding down. Jasmine gathered her sleepy triplets, preparing to leave. Several guests stopped her to say goodbye, to tell her how wonderful it was to see her, to exchange numbers and promise to stay in touch. As Jasmine headed toward the exit, Marcus intercepted her. Jasmine, can we talk? Just for a minute? Emmanuel tensed beside her, but Jasmine touched his arm gently. It's okay. I'll just be a moment. She handed her purse to Emmanuel and stepped aside with Marcus. You look happy, Marcus said, and his voice cracked on the last word. I am, Jasmine said simply. The kids, they're beautiful. Thank you. I should have. Marcus stopped, struggling. When you told me you were pregnant, I should have. Marcus, Jasmine interrupted gently. You made your choice. You have a new wife, a new life. I hope it makes you happy. Genuinely. Did you come here to humiliate me? Marcus asked. To show me what I lost? Jasmine considered the question carefully. Initially, maybe a little, but honestly, I came because I wanted to prove something to myself. that I could walk into a room full of people who watched me at my lowest and show them I survived. I thrived. That's not about you anymore, Marcus. It's about me reclaiming my own narrative. She glanced back at Emmanuel, who was entertaining all 6 children with what appeared to be a magic trick using a napkin. The kids were giggling, mesmerized. "I hope your marriage is happy," Jasmine said, turning back to Marcus. "I hope you treat Brittany better than you treated me. I hope you build something real." "I'm sorry," Marcus said, and tears were running down his face now, not caring who saw. "I'm so sorry for everything, for how I treated you, for abandoning our children, for trying to make today about hurting you. I'm sorry." Jasmine felt tears in her own eyes, but they weren't bitter tears. They were the tears that come when something finally, truly ends. "I forgive you," she said, "not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. Goodbye, Marcus." She walked back to Emmanuel, who immediately wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Together, they gathered the children and headed for the exit. The Rolls-Royce waited outside, gleaming under the Atlanta streetlights. As Jasmine settled into the luxurious back seat with her triplets, Emmanuel beside her, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: complete, whole, free. The car pulled away from the St. Regis, leaving Marcus's wedding and Marcus himself behind. Inside the ballroom, Marcus stood at the window, watching the Rolls-Royce's taillights disappear into the Atlanta night. His wedding continued around him, music, laughter, celebration, but he felt none of it. He'd planned this entire evening to prove he'd won. Instead, he'd proven that Jasmine had. And the cruelest part? She hadn't even been trying to compete. She'd simply been living her life, building her happiness, moving forward, while Marcus had stayed stuck, looking backward, trying to prove something to a woman who'd already moved on. Brittany appeared at his side. "Marcus, what's wrong? You've been weird all night." Marcus looked at his new wife, beautiful, young, ambitious, everything he'd thought he wanted. But standing there, watching the space where Jasmine had been, Marcus finally understood the difference between what you want and what you need. And he'd walked away from what he needed 3 years ago, all for the shallow victory of what he wanted in the moment. The wedding continued into the night, but for Marcus Thompson, the celebration felt hollow. He'd gotten everything he thought he wanted: the trophy wife, the expensive wedding, the appearance of success. But somewhere in the Atlanta night, Jasmine Williams was riding in a Rolls-Royce with a man who valued her, children who loved her, and a future that was hers alone. And that, Marcus realized too late, was what victory actually looked like.